everybody? I am back. I am Mr. Jones. This is Shenanigans with Mr. Jones. And yes, I know you ain't got to say it. It's been a minute. No, let me go and be real. It's been a hot minute. It's been like, I don't know, like a year almost. I don't know. Anyways, today we're making a video to barbecue, whatever. We're making a barbecue video and we're making bacon. Yes, I said it. Bacon. B-A-C-O-N. Bacon. So, before we get too far into it, we're going to talk about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and then do it. So, brain fart. First things first, the way I'm going to do it is I've already got my seasonings and everything measured out and into a little Tupperware jar or bowl just to mix it up so it's already done. And what that is, at least for my ingredients for the way I'm going to make my bacon, is essentially however much bacon you have, how many pounds of bacon you have will be essentially the almost equal to the amount of spices you're going to have. So essentially, as far as salt, we're going to do 7 teaspoons of salt, 7 teaspoons of black pepper, 7 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, and then 1 whole cup of pure maple syrup. Now, you may be asking, why so much? What I have here is, I believe it's 10.5 pounds. Yeah, this is 10.5 pounds of pork belly. Essentially, we're going to cut that in half because obviously I don't know many people who have a bag big enough and a fridge big enough just to slap that whole thing in there like that. So we're going to cut that in half. And so it'll be about 5.5 pounds. Essentially, if it was a flat 5 pounds, I would have done whatever amount of pounds I have. If it was 5 pounds plus 1.5. So if it was just 5 pounds, I would have been 6.5 teaspoons of salt, 6.5 teaspoons of black pepper. But since it's 5 1/4, 5.5, somewhere in that, we're not going to get into the exact mathematics of it. We're just going to call it 7 just to even it all out. So like I said, 7 teaspoons of salt, black pepper, 7 tablespoons of dark brown sugar, and then a full cup of pure maple syrup. You may be wondering why I'm not using any of that pink salt or that proc powder stuff. I don't know enough about it. Do all that. I would lie to you and say this first time making bacon. That would be a lie. I actually made some bacon about a month ago, and we ate that, and it was delicious. So it's time to make some more bacon, and I'm just going to do it the same way. Do it however you want to do it. Do your own research. Figure out how you want to do it. That's how I'm doing it. So with that being said, let's do this thing. All right, guys. Like I said, I already have my spices already divvied up and in its container here. So I've got, like I said, my 7 teaspoons and tablespoons of dark brown sugar, salt, and pepper already inside this little bowl here. Now, I know some of you guys probably like to see the pork belly up close and get a good look at what that fat really is like. There's quite a bit of fat, and there's a good amount of meat on here too. Of course, it kind of doesn't look like it there on the edge. Pretty nice little fat layer running through here, but that's what pork belly is. Pretty fatty cut of meat. So I'm not going to do too much of any at all trimming on this thing. I'm pretty much fine with it the way it is. Of course, this is the skin removed on it. So I'm going to do another little step here that most guys probably wouldn't do, but I'm doing something a little different. So you guys might be wondering, Mr. Jones, why'd you just score the fat the way you just did? Well, as you may be able to see, this of course has a really kind of a thick fat cap on it. And so what I did is essentially I just made some scores to kind of get down towards the meat so that when I brine this thing, some of the sugar, salt, maple syrup, pepper, everything can get down to the surface of the meat, not just into the fat. And of course, why did I cut it into 3s? The more surface area you have, the more flavor is going to get into it. And just instead of having 4 surfaces for half of the pork belly, I have half of the pork belly split into 3. So I'm going to have a lot more surface area for that, for the brine to get into and soak into and absorb and then draw out moisture from it. So that's why I did that. So what we're going to do now, of course, is bag it up, put the brine into it, and go from there. Stand by. Alright folks, I did have the pan. I just took them out of the bags, put them in the pan, rubbed them, seasoned them, and then put them back in the bags. And so all we're going to do now is quite simple, add the maple syrup. I didn't specify in the beginning of this, we're making maple bacon. We're not making regular bacon, we're making maple bacon. And so this is the maple syrup that I'm using. Okay, I got this from Walmart. When I got this the last time, I got 2 bottles thinking I need a lot. You don't need a whole lot. So I like the taste of this. It's pretty pure, smooth, good taste. Of course, that's the pertinence on it, if you want to know that. There we go. But yeah, that's what I'm using. And but since we have 3 bags, we have a total of 2 cups that needs to be split between 3. Okay, good people, we are back. Today is a whole week later. It's time to get this bacon on the grill. Now, before we get that, actually we're going to put the bacon on the grill first, and then we're going to talk about everything. Real quick, I actually just finished a little video on how to run a pellet tube smoker. Real simple, real easy. If you don't know how to do it, check that out. That's right before this video, maybe right thereafter. But anyways, I'm gonna get this bacon on here. Okay, got the the silverback fired up. It's time to get these bacon. All right, guys. So we got the bacon on silverback. Now let's talk about what we did all the way up until this point. Last week, we went to Costco. We picked up about a 10.5 pound pork belly. We then took that pork belly, cut it in half. Okay, that created about 5.25 pounds worth of pork belly. We then took that half of pork belly and cut it into strips so that we had 3 equal strips, about approximately. I don't have to be exact. I'm not real scientific and mathematical, but that's what we did. We cut it into strips to have 3 strips, so we had 6 total strips for the entire 10-pound pork belly. I don't know what the math comes out to, but 5 divided by 3 gives you somewhere in about 1.7 or so pounds. If it was 2 pounds, 2 and 2 is 4, so about 1.7, 1.6 pounds is about each strip, roughly, give or take. We cut them into strips. We put them in this same pan. We rubbed them down. We had, I'm gonna have to put this in the description because I may get this wrong, but we took essentially some salt, some black pepper, some dark brown sugar, and that's it. Salt, pepper, dark brown sugar. Rubbed it all over these strips of pork belly. We then took them, placed them in gallon Ziploc bags. We then placed them back into the same pan that you see right here. Placed them back into that pan for a week. Every day we took them out. I flip-flopped them. I just turned them over. I massaged them. I rubbed some of the juices around. Make sure the edges are still getting good loving. Get some good juice, marinade, whatever, good brine. And I just made sure to flip them every day. Okay. When you do that, you redistribute all the juices, all the moisture that comes out of it. Because let's remember. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even think about the maple syrup, and we added maple syrup to it too, because this is maple bacon, not just regular bacon. But anyways. We didn't add any extra liquid to this. All we added was maple syrup and spices. So no other real viscous liquids that had really any kind of viscosity to it. So we added that to the bacon, threw it in the fridge for 7 days, turned it over, turned it back, turned it over, turned it back, all the way up until today, a whole week later. We took them out of that same Ziploc gallon bag, rinsed them off. You need to rinse off, get all that salt off there, get all the excess spice and syrup and all that. Get that off of your meat, okay? Because if you don't, you're gonna have bacon that's super, super salty. And I don't know about you guys, I like my fair small amounts of salt, but I don't need something that's extra salty. You guys have seen me barbecue before and do rubs. I like food that's seasoned, but not salty. It's a big difference. So, took it out of that bag, rinsed it off, put it back in the pan. Okay, we then took a little bit of that same maple syrup that we used. We then took a fresh bottle of maple syrup, opened it, poured it over the pork belly on the fat side, rubbed it. I used that maple syrup kind of as a binder to get the brown sugar to stick to it. And this is a step. This is something that I do. You don't have to do that, but I like to have a good crust. When I go to fry these up in a skillet, I want my bacon to have a nice exterior crust. But anyways, this is what I do. Like I said, took that maple syrup, rubbed it on the outside. Then I took some dark brown sugar and just, put it in my hand and crumbled it all over the pork belly. Just to the real thin layer, not nothing too heavy, because we're not making candied bacon here. We're making breakfast bacon here. So we just took a little of that, sprinkled it over the top. We used the maple syrup to get the brown sugar to make sure it stuck and melted into the meat. And then just turned it over, flipped it, and did the exact same thing. From then, here we are, back outside in the backyard on the smoker. We got the silverback set to 225. Now, clearly, you just saw me put all that pork belly on there. In 18-degree weather, you open this thing up, you're gonna lose all your heat like that. And because of that, the grill is up to 260. I ain't too worried about that. It's an old saying out there when it comes to pellet grills and pretty much any grill. If you're looking, you ain't cooking. Okay, you got to keep that door closed. Get your food on there as quick as you can. Get the door closed. Let the temp come back up, and don't open it again until you're ready to either take it out or spritz it. But don't just be coming out here just because you're gonna lose all your heat. You're gonna burn a lot more pellets. It's not an efficient way to barbecue.
If you don't believe me, go look at anybody else, all these grand pit masters, barbecue chefs, and everybody. They're gonna tell you the same thing. You do not want to be opening this door, especially when it's 18 degrees outside. Anywho, so we're doing this at 225. I got the pellet tube also inside the pellet smoker to give me some additional smoke on these on this bacon. What am I using today? I'm using maple pellets from Lumberjack. I've always used Lumberjack pellets. I had a bag of Traeger that I used in the very beginning before I knew that Traeger's pellets were crap, and that's not just my opinion. That's a lot of people's opinion. Not even just Traeger folk. A lot of Traeger folk love their pellets. A lot of Traeger folk hate their pellets. But hey, do your own experiments. You'll find out what works best for your grill and what you like more. I don't like their pellets, so I use Lumberjack pellets. And when I'm out of them, I usually get the pellets that Grilla Grills usually use. So like I said, we're using maple, and I got the pellet tube that's also running maple, and we're gonna have us some maple bacon. It's pretty serious. It's pretty straightforward. So I've done enough talking. I don't want this video to be too terribly long, and I guess I'll catch you guys when we're ready to take this stuff off. I am gonna come back maybe 2.5, 3 hours from now and flip these pork belly over, just to make sure that we are getting some even cooking around the entire pork belly. And also because I want to make sure that the fat does not render, but you want to get it right up to about 160. Wherever, it probably won't stall because I cut mine in a strip, so it should cook a little quicker. But if you push it too long, you get up into 180. I had one strip that I did last time that hit 180, and all the rest of them were 160. I guess I cut it a little smaller than the rest, and that one got up to 180, and it was there, and I was like, oh crap, I need to pull it off. But anyways, about 160 where you want to be at. 155 if you're getting too nervous. But 160 is that gold number that you want to hit and pull. But like I said, I'm done talking. I'm gonna catch you guys when I'm ready to take this stuff off. Maybe I'll show you guys when I flip it, but you guys see that fat side. But there's not a whole lot to see. Silverback's running, and that's all we need to say. All right, so folks, I'm pretty much at the point where I'm getting ready to take off the bacon, and I just want to give you a little update. Current time is 12:42. Bacon was on at about 10:15. I had to run out real quick, and I just got back a little while ago. I checked them, and they were tipping right up around 160. And a couple pieces were just a bit over, but in dead center, they were looking at like 140. So I turned the temp down to 195. And I of course I flipped the bacon and I rearranged them, and so I did that of course because they were cooked a little too fast. It's only barely 2 hours. When I checked them, it had been an hour and a half. Like it was right around noon, maybe a little bit right before noon. Like I said, at 225. I did not expect them to be done in an hour and a half. In no way would I ever think that. But anyways, like I said, so I turned the tip down just to get them to slow down their cooking because they're cooking good and they're looking good and smelling good. A piece of fat broke off on a piece, and I tasted it, and it tastes so freaking good. So I just, like I said, I just turned it down. So I'll bring you in, and we'll temp them, and we'll probably more likely take them off, put them in the pan. Alright folks, so it's the day after we just made that bacon yesterday out there on Silverback, and I got it sliced up, I got it bagged, I got 2 bags in the freezer, I got the other bag of course that was in the fridge. We got that. We're about to make some bacon today, so stick with me, bring you in a little closer. Gonna make some breakfast. We're not just making bacon, we're making breakfast. The old lady, she's still in bed asleep, so if you want to be a good man, keep your voice down. Get up while she's still asleep. Kids are still asleep. Get up, get in the kitchen, wash the dishes, get some breakfast out, cook the breakfast, and have the breakfast ready for your lady. When she wakes up, that smell of bacon, fresh cup of coffee, eggs, maybe even some biscuits. It's gonna be a good night. A real good night. Y'all stick with me. So real quick, the way that I cut my bacon, as you guys saw, I had it in those 6 strips. Why did I do it like that? Is because I wanted to get more flavor on all sides of the pork belly as I could. as much of that maple syrup, as much of the salt and pepper and the brown sugar, as much as I could. Because if you just do 2 slabs per se, you just want to have 4 corners. By having 6 strips, I got 4 edges per se across the entire pork belly that I got, all of that good seasoning on the edges. So I got 24 edges per se that have that seasoning around it, and smoke, of course, too, instead of just having 4 or even 8 if you got 2. So real quick, I want to show you guys how I did my pork belly. So a couple slices. I have them sliced kind of thick, a few of them, but they're kind of thin, or not real long. Why do I do that? Me and my wife, we like bacon, and when we have a salad sometimes, or if we have a burger, we like to have bacon on our burgers. What's the point of having bacon if you can't use it for your burgers? So I did it like that for that reason. In addition to, as you guys will see this slice here, I just cut those slices, like so. So it's not a full slice as far as the length of that entire pork belly, about half of a full slice. So that'll fit a lot easier on a burger instead of having a whole slice, but you're gonna have, of course, break it into 2 or whatever. It's just much easier to cook, a lot easier to control. That's why I did it. Do it however you want to do it. It's your bacon, it's your pork belly. Do what you want to do. But here we go. So real quick, guys. This is how I got my bacon, of course. This pan is 100% cool. You guys can do your bacon however you want to do it, but the way that we do bacon in my house is we always start with a cool pan, and we place the bacon in that pan, and we turn that pan, or at least the heat, to a medium low heat, and we allow that bacon to rise up slowly, so that gives it a chance for that fat to render out before you just sear out and burn all the meat that's with that pork belly. So that's what we do. Some guys use a cast iron skillet, hot and fast. That's cool. I got some pretty thick cuts of bacon, as I'll show you guys real quick. Some of these are pretty thick, which is, this is how we like our bacon. If it's your bacon, do what you want to do. That's how I preach, guys. You do what you want to do. It's your stuff. Do what you want. But that's what we do here, low and slow, just like we do out there on the barbecue. And of course, I got my smaller skillet here. I'm about to do some eggs, some scrambled eggs with the bacon, and we're gonna do some biscuits for the wife as well.